Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again on Tamara Leigh's Trend On. And if you're new to the show, welcome. And I'd like to introduce you to my fabulous co-host, Brent Hamachek, before I forget.
Hello, Tamara. I've never really thought of myself as being fabulous before. I'll have to dig out my Liberace coat for at least the halfway point. But I'll do my best. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Great to have you here. I'm excited about our conversation today with our guest, Kim Peters, who is a digital warrior. And I just said before we started the show that, that's my world of late ever since 2016, having gotten involved on Twitter with the messaging. And one of the important things I've said in 2020, the difference is we can't just stay in our groups with the messaging online. We have to take that offline and get the message out as evangelist. And I know that's one of the words she's kind of used to describe this digital warriors group that she is a part of. And so I'm excited to have you join us, Kim. Kim Peters, digital warrior. Welcome to the show.
And thank you so much. We're so excited to have this opportunity to talk about our platform today with you guys.
So let's do that. Let's start by talking about your platform. Tell everyone what it is that you do.
Well, essentially, Steve Sargent was the one that started this platform. And what he had noticed was the groundswell of Americans posting on conservative websites, main influencers, the right side of social media and the news, asking, what can I do as an American to fight against this tyranny? How can I get my message out to maybe reach others so that they can better understand that this isn't no more about being a Republican or a Democrat. This is about being an American. And what he realized is that in order to be effective, we needed to come together collectively as a group and push a singular message in repetition to other, let's say, Democrat platforms, main influencers, reading through their posts. It's pretty easy to identify a moderate liberal or an independent because they ask questions to that poster. I think the best one right now is this China virus thing. A poster will post something about wear a mask and save your neighbor. And then you'll read a post where someone will say, but wait a minute, when we were told to stay home 6 weeks, 6 weeks in March to save this, we were told, don't wear a mask. So why are you saying wear a mask? And of course, that influencer, they're not going to answer that person. But we as digital warriors, working through these democratic platforms, we will answer them, and we'll answer them with a bit of truth. We don't bombard them with a long, lengthy link to news link, but we do give them little bits like a meme, video about a Democrat who has walked away after being a Democrat for all of their life and their family's lives, or a video, just to give them something to think about, and the goal with that is for them to decide, what, I want what I've had in my life. I don't like seeing what's going on right now. And in order for us to reach those folks and kind of turn this tide a little bit, the goal is posting. There's 22,000 of us. So if we're all posting the same message, then we're reaching 22,000 other folks with the goal of them having to vote for President Trump, vote for their freedom. Because each one of us is an American, our freedoms all look separate, but we all have our freedoms.
So are you posting these on like at the bottom of a news article that might appear, or the bottom of an editorial? Where are people finding these posts that you're making?
So through Digital Warriors, if you go on to, it's Stephen J. Sargent on Parler. That's the Digital Warriors main page. And on his page, you'll see it's called a weapon link of the day. And it's an article, a meme, or a video, something of that nature. So we all work together. We take that information and we go to Democrat platforms, whether it's social media influencers, is it a politician, is it a fake news network? We read through the comments. It's not necessarily just posting. We read the comments to find someone who is genuinely asking a question to that
Okay.
poster. And so then we will then respond to that person with a bit of truth. Because we know that the influencer, they're not going to answer them. They're not going to say, oh, well, this isn't really what I meant by that. They're just going to ignore them. But we're not ignoring them. It's, as Tamara had said, it's more of evangelical in that we're each touching individuals individually, but as a group, collectively, 22,000 of us, and we're re-sharing the same message. So it's working and being cohesive.
So you're doing exactly what I thought. In 2016, we learned kind of where to go, what sources we needed from our side to get accurate information or to be in the know of what's going on. And then you take that information and you bring it out to the general population who doesn't know, and Brent and I have had this conversation. Not everybody is dialed into Twitter. In fact, mainstream America is not. And you talk Parler, and now you have even less people who know what you're talking about, because Parler, most of our audience knows that that's an alternative social media platform that came out of all of the censorship from Twitter. I had started a Parler account, and then I shut it down because I didn't like some of the terms of service with Parler. But you're using it how I thought it would be, because it, it could be an echo chamber, but you're using it as sort of your team campaign headquarters for messaging, so you're all on page, and then you're taking that out to the general public or the left of where, like you said, where their sites are. I think that's brilliant, and I love that you're thinking beyond singing to the choir and finding ways, because we need those walk away, we need those crossover voters. So how have you found your messaging receptive or not, in terms of trying to talk to people? Because oftentimes, and Brent has written articles about this, he's the expert here of talking past each other. What do you do when you're, in conflict with ideas? How do you find that common ground?
What we try to do is engage in a positive approach. The Democrats are good at mudslinging and good at pointing fingers. I think their DNC last week, was a good example of that. So when we go and we repost a truth to someone that is sincerely asking a question, we're able to engage in them. I would say maybe 50% of the time, they will respond back to our post and say, well, what do you mean by that? And so then we'll go on a little bit further and we'll say, well, go and do your research. This mask issue is a good one. Initially, don't wear a mask, and so they're questioning that. So then I've had situations where I've ran across, moderate liberals and independents who are sincerely concerned about that and confused. And I will say, you know what, go on to the OSHA website and do your research and find out, what exactly does OSHA say? Because OSHA is an agency that oversees all of that. And on OSHA, what you'll find is that they'll say whether it's a cloth mask, a cotton mask that you see the surgeons wear, when they're in surgery, they say it will not protect the wearer, from these airborne diseases,
So does OSHA, this is a side question, but does OSHA have requirements or information on over wearing masks? Do they have protections against that side of mask wearing for employees and workers?
They haven't gone that far yet.
Okay.
However, I read an interesting article yesterday, and it was an article from an influencer from back east. And what he had noticed is he has, someone close to him works in the emergency room in one of the major hospitals. And she had stated, we're seeing people come in now into the emergency room with bacterial infections. And her thought process was that, everyone's wearing a mask. In Arizona, come on, Phoenix, it's 110 degrees. Wearing a mask outside is absurd. You can't breathe. But what's happening is that you're breathing in your own saliva. And so some of these folks that have weakened immune systems, that's getting into their lungs and it's creating another type of infection. So hopefully maybe OSHA will catch up with that. It seems that everybody kind of follows, what the Center for Disease Control has to say about it, unfortunately. So maybe if they're opening their eyes a little bit more to see what we could potentially have a problem with this, then, maybe we'll have, an authoritative, if you will, base that will come out and say, well, these are actually the pros and the cons of wearing a mask.
It's interesting that we're recording this show on the morning after the CDC came out and said that not everyone has to run to get tested.
Mm-hmm.
And what's relevant about that to what we're talking about now is that, and this was from Good Morning America this morning, so ABC, and that is that yesterday when the CDC representative had his press conference, the first thing he started by saying, the very first thing was, this had nothing to do with the administration. What I'm basically about to tell you is just from the CDC. And when ABC reported the story this morning, their headline on the screen was, CDC reverses on testing under political pressure from administration.
Mm-hmm.
Then when they go to the reporter to cover the story, they show on the screen that why they're saying that is because the New York Times said that's the reason. Mm-hmm. So they're quoting the New York Times. They're saying it's a fact in their story that the CDC did this under political pressure. And then they say, and yet they deny it, and they play the audio of it being said this isn't political pressure. All of which that convoluted daisy chain I just constructed is to point out the amount of disinformation that's being spread as actual factual news. Mm-hmm. Actual factual, I just channeled my inner Dr. Seuss. And I'm wondering, tell us a little bit about the methodology your group is employing and how it is you're picking the sort of story of the day, if you will, that you're going after, and how that works and what you're doing to vet your own information and give people a little bit of the quality control piece.
Okay, so what we do inside Digital Warriors, there are state leaders. I'm the state leader for Arizona. And so we take our conversations offline, off Parler, onto an application called Telegram. Because then that allows us to set up individual groups. We can talk with the state leaders. We can talk with our own state folks. We can talk to other state leaders to find out, what information they're, coming across. So this information will funnel in through the state leaders. And then we've got researchers that fact check the information, because the last thing we want to do is put something out there that's not true. There's enough of that. So we fact check the information. We make sure that we're able to link it to a viable source, not someone said this, so it must be gospel. And then once it's been fact checked, then another one of our researchers will put together, a short piece. And then from that, Stephen Sargent on the Digital Warriors site, he'll post a message, and it'll say on the top Digital Warriors, and at the bottom of it, it will say message link of the day or weapon link of the day. So then we all go to that, go to his main page, read the information, look at the message weapon link, whether it's a meme, a video, or an article, and then take that information, go on to Democrat social media platforms, whatever it may be. And I mean, there's a ton of them. You've got the fake news media that you can go to and read comments. You've got large social media influencers. You've got the politicians that you can go on and read their comments, YouTube, Instagram. I mean, it's just endless. So then you take that information, weapon link of the day, you kind of read down through the articles, and you will find someone that is asking a similar question, that will allow us to kind of post that information. And we know it's to be truthful information. And trust me, there's been plenty of, little rockin' socks inside the leader chat room because someone is very passionate. They'll run across an article, for example, what's happening in Wisconsin right now.
Right.
And, there's been so much information as to, how it began, why it began, what's going on now.
Mhm.
And, the state leader from Wisconsin, of course, is very passionate about this. They're upset, they're livid because their police are being attacked. And I mean viciously, not,
Right.
just a riot where they're standing as a human chain and not letting the patrol cars pass. I mean, they're attacking patrol cars, they're attacking our officers. But we will not post that information until it's been verified by a legitimate source. Because the worst thing that can happen for us is if we're trying to reach these folks on the other side is to post something that's not true. Because, there are also trolls, and that is their life's goal, is to look at what we're posting and then try to discredit us in one way or another. So if we stick with the truth, if we stick with a positive message and, a contact to an independent or a moderate liberal in a nice way, not in your face. It's like in Nevada, for example, I've been going onto Democrat platforms there because, the police association in the state of Nevada has endorsed President Trump. And that's huge. So I go on and, onto the Democrat platforms and I kind of read through what they're talking about, and then I will post what I found and I'll say, hello, Nevadian, just to give you, some word for thought as to, how these organizations, and so many of them have never endorsed a president before. So, I mean, this is huge. And if these associations are endorsing President Trump because they acknowledge that President Trump supports our police officers, our men and women that are out there every day, protecting us from, potential crimes. But they're also helping, folks that may be in a car accident, they need to, get out. I mean, there's stories all over where they, help, get animals that have been stranded, or, folks that need a helping hand, by giving them some food or some boots or something like that. So I post that information, and then hopefully, that person on that Democrat site will kind of think about it, watch the video, and then make up their own mind. That's what we're wanting to do with truthful information.
I want to ask, if I could, Tamara, sometimes I ask too many questions and then Tamara admonishes me after the show. I'm curious, so we're doing all this to sort of counteract the level of disinformation and censorship that takes place. What sort of censorship efforts have you run into with what you're doing? What, if any, sort of, posts removed, messages challenged, all of those things? Or has your strategy been fairly effective in being able to avoid them for the most part?
Well, of course, the majority of the social media platforms, they don't want anybody telling the truth.
Right.
So they will block you. They will take your post down and say, according to our researchers, it doesn't meet the community standards. And that was the reason why I joined Digital Warriors, because I had been on Twitter for many, many years. And I had already decided Twitter had a predetermined amount of people that would follow me. If I got close to that amount, I would get put in jail for something. I'd get the post taken away. I'd get shadow banned. And so on Twitter, in an effort to kind of join together and get messages out, you join a group. And so in this group, what you do is you repost one another's posts to break through that bubble of, disinformation. Whereas with the Digital Warriors, we're all working cohesively, sharing the same information to get the message out. But yes, we do get blocked. So what we do to combat that is that, Gmail is easy. Get a new Gmail account. We'll go up and we'll set up another account and just keep on plugging along.
It really requires persistence because it's so frustrating. I get so frustrated with Twitter. It's like they'll shadow ban something. It's like, okay, I'm a grown up. I can decide whether or not I want to see something. I don't need Twitter telling me this is too sensitive for me to be able to handle. It's just ridiculous. But that's part of the strategies that they employ and the games that they use. So that's where I liked in listening to your one of your other interviews. You said you're actually finding a way to take this offline as well. So not just on, that's your entryway, that's your open door, but you've worked on getting out to actual meetups. So tell us about that.
So what we do is if we do find folks that are somewhat interested, is we will contact them. If they're, on Twitter, I'm seeing a lot of people are starting to gain a lot of interest in Parler now. Not only so much on the conservative side, but on the liberal side too, because their voices they're beginning to see are shadow banned. So we bring them in, and then we can have offline conversations. I'll have them download the Telegram app, and we'll have an honest conversation, and just to try to reach them so that they understand that, we're not trying to arm wrestle anyone into making a decision they don't want to make. All we're wanting to do is fight against that fake narrative that is hard to overcome. I mean, when you have the majority of the news reporting sites that will absolutely turn the other way and refuse to, print the truth. And these people, a lot of them, they watch CNN as gospel. So they think, well, it must be true. So if I'm lucky enough to reach that person on a social media platform, I'll bring them in and I'll have a private conversation with them. And, just really kind of stress the point that, again, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat anymore. This is a fight for Americans to protect our way of life. And it doesn't matter, my way of life and what I do as an American is totally different maybe from, what a Democrat's way of life is. But at the end of the day, I feel that we all have the same common interest, and that is protecting what we know and love. We have maybe 10 people, politicians on the Democrat side that are creating 90% of this chaos. There's over 623, I think, representatives in both the House and the Senate. And I can identify 10 of them that are causing all this trouble. So,
yeah, but they go in lockstep with the marching orders from the top down. So that's one thing that Dems do very efficiently and effectively, is to always be in lockstep with each other on whatever the trigger event or issue is going to be. And part of that evangelism is helping people to see, look at the patterns here, look at what's going on, find the truth within all of the noise. But it really is trying to break through people, so the ones asking questions kind of give you that opportunity then to follow up with them and say, here's truth, or have you thought about that? Because they do take, and Brent, I know you spend some of your day deliberately going into what the mainstream media is saying and understanding, because I think that's a danger that a lot of us in the MAGA movement, we can become kind of within our own groups, right? Not really cliquish, but, comfortable there, where we don't want to go out and do the hard work of engaging someone who's going to challenge us. And they are relentless sometimes.
They are very scary. I mean, if today's headline, I don't know if you all saw it, and I saw it off of, actually, I go overseas to read mail news about America because you can't get the truth on any of, even Fox anymore. During the day is just ridiculous, and one of the headlines on another media outlet was smoky but mostly peaceful protests in Washington. The state of Washington, or I think, Michigan. And I'm thinking, they have a picture in the background of these police cars on fire, and they're saying it's smoky, but mostly peaceful. And so those are the folks, that, they see these headlines and they think, well, it's peaceful, so that's okay. But then, I'll go on and I'll find someone that'll say that. Well, it's okay because that's one of our First Amendment rights. And I'll challenge him and say, so is going to church. How do you feel about not being able to go to church? Or if your church is open, I mean, I belonged to my church for 15 years, and we go and the environment is just bad, and you can't sit next to your neighbor that you've known.
Right.
You can't talk to an elder to see how they're doing. You all have to just sit forward and, kind of
Yeah,
hear
it's interesting.
sad sermons. And
It's in,
where
it's
is that?
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to realize that, I'm 58 years old, and for 58 Christmas Eves in a row, I've been in church, and it is an odd thing in August to already know and realize that on December 24th, on Christmas Eve,
Yep.
I know I won't be there. I mean, I already know that our church won't be having services here in where I live in an Illinois, Chicago suburb. It won't happen. So I'm curious, as we get near the end here, one of the things that Rush Limbaugh has done for many years is always moved callers to the front of the line who share with Mr. Snerdley that they are converts, that, they used to be whatever they were, and then they started to listen to Rush's show, and now they've really come around. He always moves those people to the front of the line. I'm wondering if you have some experiences with regard to converts and anything encouraging about somebody who has actually shown you had that spiritual awakening as a result of your good works.
We have actually. We've been pretty successful. Obviously, not the numbers we'd like to see, but we've been able to so far recruit about 10% across the board. So if that's 22,000 people, it's one person at a time. And so what we really need in order to continue to grow this and spread the truth is more folks that say, you know what, I've got some free time. I can spend an hour at night. Go on Stephen J. Sargent's account on Parler and kind of read through what our messages are. And then also, aside from doing the Digital Warrior, we also have folks that are making phone calls and sending emails, especially in the swing states and the swing counties. We've got some opportunities in October to do kind of boots on the ground efforts where we're going to go to these swing states and swing counties, and we have a flyer of, it's pretty simple. Biden doesn't support the border wall. He wants, illegals, illegal immigrants to be able to have free medical and all these opportunities. And, President Trump supports the wall. He supports security. He supports folks coming over and becoming an American the right way. So it's just a short piece that kind of opens their eyes as well. And so that's part of our boots on the ground effort that we're going to be doing in October. Lastly, this isn't going to end in November for us. There's
Right.
still a lot to be done. Our goal right now, our big push is to educate those that are looking or seeking some additional information, decide they want freedom, vote for President Trump, and then after the election, come back together and look at other elections, whether it's a local, federal, or state or national election. What can we do to start our efforts for 2021?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Great stuff, Tamara.
It's a movement that needs to have longevity in terms of really transforming back to where we were in a new way of moving forward. So we don't want the same old, but we have to take those principles and those freedoms and find the common ground. I like that you attack the issues and not the individual. That's always best approach because we, at the end of the day, we are Americans, and it is our individual rights that unite us and make us different. But that's a great thing. That the diversity of America is wonderful. We wouldn't want to all be the same. So it's finding that common ground. So I love what you're doing. Where can people find you again? Just give us a shout out for following.
Very simple. On Parler, it's Stephen J. Sargent. That's a Digital Warriors account on Parler. We have an account, Digital Warriors, excuse me, digitalwarriorsusa.com. That has all of our information that they would find on Parler about what our mission statement is. They're able to see a target list of Democrats that we do target. They're able to go in and look at videos and memes and articles. I mean, memes are the most effective. A few words and a picture will give almost everyone pause to go, oh, wait a minute, that makes perfect sense. You know, and also it helps us because so far, you know, the social media reader things, programs, or whatever they call them, the memes are able to sneak through. Whereas words, if, you know, there's COVID in there or China virus somewhere, it automatically gets, you know, locked down. But if we can post a meme and say something about this illness, pick different words, then we're able to, get that out too.
Yeah, they're very powerful and funny.
Yeah, a lot of them are pretty funny.
Well, I think
stay away from the mean ones.
Look, Kim, I think it's been terrific that you're willing to spend the time and share with us what it is you're doing. And I also think that what you're doing is, the vigilance and the persistence it'll require is key.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to push a car up a hill.
Yes.
It takes a couple of things. It takes a number of people, and it takes a steady gait. Malcolm Gladwell sort of famously introduced the term tipping point to us 20 years ago. Michael Mann dishonestly put the term hockey stick into our lexicon. People are familiar with these ideas. It is the persistence in pushing the car up the hill with the group and all that steady hard work that ultimately can get you to the crest and then have it be so much easier all of a sudden, right? Exactly. So it's the efforts that you and your folks are making and things that other people are doing. It's that push. It's as a collective in trying to not give up and not relent. And then hopefully at some point in time, you'll feel that downhill moment and the momentum gather. So that's my wish for you. And certainly thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And I really appreciate being able to come on today and talk about Digital Warriors. And again, if anyone is interested, just check us out. We're very passionate in what we do. And, our hope is to, save our ideals and keep America the way that each individual sees America. That I think is the most important. On the RNC last night, a gentleman had said that what is unique about America isn't so much that we are all blood as other countries would be. America was built on ideologies, built on the premise of, God first. And we are a melting pot of different cultures and, different backgrounds, but we all have that same bond, that same common bond. And that is that we love our America. And that's what we're wanting to really just push out and, get people thinking about that and thinking, I don't want that riot in my cul-de-sac.
Well, and thank you for that because the key states, I like that you're targeting the key states, and that Wisconsin 1 district where the Kenosha thing is happening is one of those swing districts. So it's important to be aware of those things. But yeah, great, huge difference between the RNC and the DNC, and we have to just keep showing that to people. And I do know that it's an incredible time suck because I live in that world, and so it takes dedication and persistence and patience. I love Brent's analogy of the up the hill. So hopefully November we'll have an easier time going the other side of this. But thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
That you've done. Thanks everyone again for coming back and being with us another time. I love being able to share great people doing great things. So we will see you next time on Tamara Leigh's Trend On with Brent.
Thanks, Tamara.
All right, guys, have a good day.
Kim. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.